All right, so I have to push the button and I need to smile. Oh, wait, Steve's pushing my buttons and Josh and Luke's buttons and everyone
We're
else's
live.
buttons. Good evening, everybody. We thought we'd have a little jam session with you and have some fun. I've got Luke and Ann, and we even added Lori in for a song or two. It's going to be a night filled with just some fun music, and so we're awfully glad you're with us tonight. Hope you're doing well and staying safe, and along the way you'll learn a little bit more about some of our favorite music, some of the things we like to do, some of our memories, and we hope to share that with you in the hope that as you're apart from us, that we're thinking of you, and we look forward to the time where we can share together once again. So, what do we miss the most?
Well, we just wish everyone was here, you know.
Yeah.
We're just wishing, we wish you were here. So,
Yeah.
you know.
And since we wish you were here, we thought we'd sing a song that lets you know the essence of our feelings.
So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold steel red, a smile from a veil? Do you think you can tell? And it may get you to trade your heroes for ghosts, harshness for trees, hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change. Did you exchange a walk on part in a wall, or a lead role in a cage?
Give it to me, Michael.
How I wish you were here. We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, year after year, running over the same old ground. What have we found? The same old field. Wish you were here.
We do wish you all were here, and we're glad to be in this place. We look forward to the time we can all come back together. So tell me, Luke, what were some of the songs popular in your high school years?
My high school years?
Yeah, what were some of the songs popular?
Oh boy, let's see. My high school years were, some say, marred by the pop punk movement. Songs.
You're fine.
Maybe you've heard some other. All but small things, true care, truth brings. That was a lot of my high school, and I personally love it. There's a lot of nostalgia attached to it, but I figure some of our viewers out there probably don't really love that.
Because
music,
he's
but-
young.
Yeah, no, not anymore. But
Well, yeah.
when I was, that was the thing. But pop punk was the big thing. Now it's all hip hop, electronic, that stuff. So it's even gone worse from where it was.
Yeah,
when I
from
was
where
in
we
high school.
were, yeah.
In my
exactly.
opinion, but
And what were some of the songs that were popular in your day?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
We were the same.
Yeah, Lori and
time,
I were
so-
talking about Betty Davis eyes.
Ah, yeah.
Betty Davis eyes. I was like, okay. I was really sick of that song.
Yeah, Steve Miller Band.
Oh, I love Steve.
Joker and
Oh,
Jet
yeah, yeah,
Airliner,
yeah.
which was one of my favorite.
Leaving home out on the road. I've been down before.
I don't know if I'm singing that in the right key.
That's
I would have been
okay.
way up and riding along on the beat. Really high.
Yeah. Doobie Brothers, they were kind of popular during our time. But there were a couple songs that came to mind people really liked that were out of what we call the California rock, soft rock movement. The Eagles.
Yeah, Eagles.
Well, it was called California rock because it was the Eagles, Linda Ronstadt, and some of those kinds of groups. And of course, the guy who wrote a lot of that stuff was
Jackson Brown.
Well, yeah.
Let's do a little Jackson Brown.
Looking out at the road rushing under my wheels. Looking back at the years gone by like so many summer fields. It's 65, I was 17 and running up the 101. I don't know where I'm running now, I'm just running on. Running on, running on empty, running on, running blind, yeah. Running into the summer, I'm running behind. Gotta do what you can just to keep your love alive. Trying hard to confuse it with what you do to survive. In 69 I was 21 and I got on the road my own. I don't know where the road turned on to the one I'm on. Running on, running on empty, running on, running blind, yeah. Running into the summer, I'm running behind. Did you know Jackson Brown helped write this? You know what song he also helped write?
What's that one?
I've been running down the road trying to loosen my load. I got 7 women on my mind. 4 that wanna hold me, 2 that wanna stole me once. So she's a friend of mine. Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. Like now, where you still can. Don't even try to understand. Just find a place to make your stand and take it easy. Take it away, Michael. Give me a solo.
running on empty, running on, running blind, yeah. Running into the summer, I'm running behind. Running on empty, running on, running blind, yeah. Running into the summer, I'm running behind. Good old Jackson Brown.
So, Ann, what instrument did you start with first?
Well, my mom made me take piano lessons. when I was
Piano lessons?
7, and I dug in my heels and quit.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I just wouldn't learn to read the music, and she said, someday you will come to regret this. And I hate having to tell her posthumously that she was so right.
She was so right.
Gotta hate it when your mother's right.
Because, of course, between in our family, Ann is the one with all the musical talent as far as it comes to
That's not
reading.
true.
And, well, I disagree. You are awesome in the way that you read the bells.
I'm the one with all the formal training. That
You
is
have
an
all the
equal
formal
talent.
training, and that is fantastic. So, what did you start on?
I actually started on piano. My mom was a piano teacher.
See,
She
there's a
taught me
theme here.
Piano when I was 5.
Well,
And
that's
I
right.
quit when I was 13, 14, around there. And then I got into classic rock of the 70s, and that's when I picked it back up at 16 around the same time. I started guitar. But
Okay.
how about you, Michael? What was the first song?
I started on the bass. So I
Oh,
started
no
on the
way.
bass. But then, of course, one of the things that I had heard from a professional session bass player is that bass players in general tend to be frustrated guitarists. And so I thought, ooh, wow, let's go be a guitar player. Yeah, right. So I picked up a guitar, and I remember taking it. Our church went on a service project, and I had 2 really dear friends of mine. They're still amazing to this day, Andy Redding and Matt Gorman. And we're on this service project. We've got our guitar, and Andy's got his bass, and it's acoustic bass. And we started playing. The first song I learned was Tom Petty's Breakdown. So what is it? Let me do that again. We'll get there. It's alright if you love me. It's alright if you don't. I'm not afraid of you running away, honey. I get the feeling you have.
I almost forgot about that one.
Oh.
People can see what kind of trouble this is.
Yeah, so.
Man, I gotta learn the rest.
You know, and I love that stuff, and some of the other bands I really got into. Did you know this? I'm going to give you my fact for the day.
Okay.
Tom Schultz of Boston. You know Tom Schultz?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Tom Schultz's mother was in my congregation in Sedona.
True story.
What?
True
And
story.
I went the first 3 years of my tenure in Sedona and didn't even know it. I found out one night at Bell's, because she was a great bell player. I immediately walked over and said, "Oh, I love your son's music." I hugged her, and I stepped back and I started bowing, and she just laughed. Oh,
That's awesome.
yeah, she's a great lady. Tom's a great guy, and he writes some great music. So what do you say?
Let's play a Boston song.
How about it? How about it?
Which one? Peace of Mind? Or-
Yeah, let's go with some peace of mind.
Yeah, let's see. Now if you're feeling kind of low about the dues you've been paying, you're just coming much too soon. And you run around but somehow you just keep on staying. Can't decide on which way to go. if you're coming to the top of the company ladder, I hope it doesn't take too long. Can't you see the coming day when it won't matter? Come a day when you be gone. I understand about indecision. I don't care if I get behind people living in competition. All I want is to have my peace of mind. Take a look ahead. Take a look ahead. Yeah, 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 yeah. Whoa. You got this, Michael. Now everybody got it fast. You just keep on giving. Doesn't mean too much to me. Lots of people out there make a decent living. Can't decide on who they should be. I understand about indecision, and I don't care if I get behind people living in competition. All I want is to have my peace of mind. Take a look ahead. Take a look ahead. Take it away, Michael. Woo!
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
I'll find it.
Does that one fade out? You never know how to end songs that fade out.
Tom will give us a little leeway there because he's an amazing piano player too. He's obviously he plays the organ like there's no tomorrow, but he's classically trained, which is one of the cool things. You're gonna play us a little something off of your
Yeah.
set list.
Let me do it on the piano.
Okay. Yeah. One of the things we sometimes don't know about people is they make records, or we used to call it making records. Luke has a couple CDs, and when this is all said and done, we're going to make them available to you. How many do you have, Luke?
Well, I've got two finished and recorded. I did one in 2014 and one in 2017, and I'm trying to keep on par every 3 years. So 2020 is the year
That's it.
for number 3. So I've got 8 new songs recorded. We're just working on mixing them and mastering, and it should be out by September, October this year. I have physical copies of one of the CDs. The other one I was too poor to print at the time, so we're still working up getting that one printed. But yeah, I do have CDs available. But yeah, this next song I was going to play is just. Now I've never really tried this alone because they're meant for full band, but we'll do it on piano because I can maybe sound a little bit fuller. This song is called You Are. Throw it out, 'cause there's nothing left for these dreams stuck in our heads. Maybe life's gonna take away, I won't change things, not yet. You can be the answer for the questions in my heart. I won't mean it for anyone like you and me to part. 'Cause you are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. The one who takes me away. You are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. The one who takes me away. I don't want to read the palms yet, but these visions in my head, taking over all the thoughts I think. I can't picture anything instead. You are to me what I thought I'd seen in life, and now we dance on top of the world. Seems that we've arrived. 'Cause you are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. The one who takes me away. You are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. The one who takes me away. Save a little more for the end. This is too good to be true. I believe and I understand. We gotta go and see this through. Could you go and live your life with me? The only life I'd spend. Live it up through good and the bad. Fighting till the end. 'Cause you are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. The one who takes me away. You are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. You are, you are, you are. The one who takes me away. So that one's going to be, thank you. That one's going to be on the new album this fall, so be looking out for it.
Excellent. Well, when everybody starts coming back to church, I want you to say, "Hey, Luke, I want to buy one of your CDs." Because they
Hey,
are really
I do want to take a moment to thank everyone out there, and I'll thank again on Sunday for anyone who happens to not be catching this, but my wife and child and I want to thank you for the incredible love and support you guys have shown to us through cards, letters, gift cards, monetary help in this tough time. We cannot thank you enough. So we don't know who it was. A lot of anonymous people have helped us, and we're so grateful, and I don't know how else to tell you, but here, hopefully you're watching, and again, from our family to yours, thank you so much. So.
All right, yeah. So as we get ready to do a little James Taylor, and Luke nails this, we're going to put my wife to work and is going to give him a little bit. But I do have to ask, what has been your favorite gig that you've done? Ann, what's your favorite gig?
I was going to say start with Ann. I got to think.
Well, probably the TSO. Hello. Probably the TSO shows we did at Good Shepherd, because they were it was so gratifying to work so hard with such a cool group of people and then have people actually like it. It was awesome.
Yeah. It was a big crowd, you know. It had
It was
20
a huge undertaking,
musicians. We
and
had
you got
handbells and
Yeah, you got the satisfaction of like
violins. Lori was a part of that.
tons of people working on it, and people loved it.
I've been really blessed to work with some amazing guitar players. You're one of them, and so is Keith Barnhart. He is absolutely phenomenal. So, what's your favorite gig that you've done that comes up on your head?
This one. This one's great. Having a lot of fun. No, but really, almost every gig I do, I love. There's been a few not so great, but this one I love. There's been so many good ones. One that stands out to me was we played for a 5K last year, and there was just a great crowd. There were people coming up and just dancing, and like I don't know, when the crowd's into it, when people are into it, it's just so fun because that's what music's for, to connect us and to, whether you're listening or playing. It's the most universal language. It's the closest thing, I think, that can connect people over their differences. So any show where that happens.
Right, and that's what you're looking for. I call it the toe tapping moment, because that's what you want, is you want people tapping their toes. When I was with Ann in Big Fish Story, we were kind of the conference band. We did a lot of youth events. We did some events in the Pacific Northwest. We were doing a lot of traveling. It was a lot of fun. One of my favorite places to go was the Young Life Center up in outside of Buena Vista, Colorado. And a couple of years ago, we took Jay-Z Need.
Or Buena Vista.
Buena Vista, if you're from Colorado. We went there, and you get 125 to 200 kids in one place and try to get them to sing. It is such a unique experience. Half the time they're in the corner going, the other half they're dancing, they're singing, and that's it, Luke. We had, 3 years ago, folks? We had a gig up there. Dave Smith was a part of it. Lori, Lily was a part of it. It just moved. Steve played some sax. It felt so incredible to watch those kids get into not only the sense of the
and
music,
they request
but the
same
spirit.
song like every day.
Oh yeah, the same song. What was that song called?
Hop on the Bus.
Hop on the bus.
They were totally into Hop on the Bus.
They loved it, and they were so impressed.
They had a
with
whole
us.
dance to go.
They were so impressed we had a sax.
It was the
player.
sax,
Yeah, it was definitely.
It was the sax. It was all about the sax.
Yeah.
Take us into some James Taylor.
When you're down and trouble and you need a helping hand, and nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest nights. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, fall, all you got to do is call, and I'll be there. You've got a friend. If the sky above you should turn dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind begins to blow, keep your head together and call my name out loud now.
soon I will be knocking upon your door. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you got to do is call, and I'll be there. Yeah, ain't it good to know you've got a friend when people can be so cold? Yeah, they'll hurt you and desert you. Oh, they'll call your name if you let them. Don't you let them.
You let them.
You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Don't you know about winter, spring, summer, or fall? All you got to do is call, and I'll be there. You've got a friend. Yeah, you've got a friend. Ain't it good to know you've got a friend?
High five, Ann. Well, air
High
five.
five, yes. A social distance high five.
6
That's
feet
what we
away.
need. All right, part of Luke and Ann doing this was they said, well, Michael, you have to sing.
We had to make him sing because it's only fair.
So I apologize from the beginning, but one of the
And we know
things
how
that-
much he likes to sing.
Yeah, because it's, Deb will remind me that they have to turn me off whenever we do things like the Gloria Patri and things like that. So there is one song, however, that I can kind of do obviously a little touch of Tom Petty and Bob Dylan and William Shatner. I can do William Shatner well.
And
Let's
you
hear
can-
it.
And you can sing We
Come
Built This City.
sail away. Come sail away with me. There you go, little sticks.
There you
Shatner
go.
style. But Cat Stevens was one my mom loved and I grew up with. She influenced me with regard to some Cat Stevens, and you love some Cat Stevens as well, don't you?
Yeah, I just got into him more recently. About 3 years ago, started getting into him. So it's been a great journey. discovering him.
Yeah, beautiful guitar playing and great lyrics that talk about peace and joy and love, but they also remind us that being in a family is tough, and generations having to learn to live together and grow together, and sometimes the expectations of the generation that's in front, they press down on those that are underneath, and it's kind of tough. But nonetheless, there is a hope that we'll continue to love and unconditionally care for one another in the midst of who we are and how we relate. And so we wanted to give you this one as well. Let's see how we do. We had the opportunity to do it for communion one day, and it just was, I thank you, Luke, for helping me out with it. It's not time to make a change. Just relax, take it easy. You're still young, that's your fault. There's so much you have to know. Just mind a girl, settle down. If you want, you can marry. Look at me. I am old, but I'm happy. Oh, I was once like you are now, and I know that it's not easy.
Try to explain, 'cause when I do, he turns away again, and it's always been the same old story. From the moment I could talk, I was ordered to listen. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go.
It's not time to make a change. Just sit down and take it slow. Lost and young, that's your fault. There's so much you have to go through. Find a girl and settle down. If you want, you can marry.
All the times that I cried, keeping all the things I knew inside. It's hard, but it's hard to ignore it. They were right, I'd agree, but I know it's them, not me. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go.
I hope it didn't hurt too much. Ah. Well, you were part of something called the Billy and Elton Show, where you've been in the past. And
Almost forgot about that.
John Huston does some amazing stuff. You do some amazing stuff. They take the music of Elton John and Billy Joel and they put it together. And so Luke runs around the stage. John is just so immensely talented. He's sitting back there with his he's got those high shoes, doesn't he?
Platform shoes.
Platform shoes. And it's just a lot of fun all the way.
Turn it on. Ever since COVID-19, we have not been playing. Actually, we haven't done a show since last summer. The Red Hills one out at Sand Hollow was our last one. So we were scheduled to do one on May 22nd, and I believe it's going to fall through. So. However, we can give you guys a piece of that here if you want. Anyone who wants. But there will be no backflip tonight. I'm sorry. I did leg day today. I rode 3 miles on my bike and a bunch of squats, so no
he's
backflip today
refusing
unless
to
if
do
I'm going to break my
backflips.
neck. And I have a daughter, so I better not break my neck.
Yeah, that would be good.
You ready,
He does
Michael?
he does a mean backflip though.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can easily hide. Don't have much money, but boy, if I did, I'd buy a big house where we both can live.
if I were a sculptor. But then again, no, or a man who makes motions in a traveling show. I know it's not much, but it's the best I can do. Gift is my song, and this one's for you. You can tell everybody this is a song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's gone, hope you don't mind, hope you don't mind that I put out words. How wonderful life is when you're in the world. I sat on a room and picked up some moss with a few other verses that got me feeling quite cross. But the sun's been quite kind while I wrote this song. It's for people like you that keep it turned on. So excuse me for forgetting, but these things I do, you see, I've forgotten if they're green or they're blue. Anyway, the thing is, well, I've been let me. Yours are the sweetest eyes I've ever seen. You can tell everybody this is a song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's gone, hope you don't mind, hope you don't mind that I put that word. How wonderful life is when you're in the world. Hope you don't mind, hope you don't mind that I put that words. How wonderful life is when you're in the world. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, what are you going to play for us now? Oh, we're doing good. We got a couple more. Let's do some Burning Love. Lori, come up and help us. All right, I got to stand up for this because I'm going to dance. So if you all want to dance out there with us, please do.
Oh,
Just
we're all
get
in
up
such
on
trouble.
your feet because, hey, I'm hoping your toe will be tapping, and these two are going to keep you moving. We got Lori in the background. Oh, let's have some fun.
We got to have you in the middle of the aisle, Michael.
There you go.
We might have to have you do the backflip tonight.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
No.
I feel down.
No, he doesn't have the appropriate insurance for that.
I'll call 911.
Well, I'm almost out of voice, so I'm going to get creative with my voice on this. Just giving you guys forewarning, so here we go.
Lord Almighty, I feel my temperature rising.
Higher and higher, burning right through to my soul.
empire. Great is the flame, and I don't know which way to go. 'Cause your kisses lift me higher, like the sweet song of the choir, and you light my morning sky with burning love. Ooh, I feel my temperature rising. Help me a flame, and it must be 109. Burning, 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 and nothing could cool me. Just my turn to smoke, I feel fine. Because your kisses lift me higher, like the sweet song of the choir, and you light my morning sky with burning love. It's coming closer, things are not making my body. Please would you help me? I feel like I'm slipping away. It's hard to breathe, my chest is heaving. Lord Almighty, burning a hole where I live. Help me out! 'Cause your sins lift me higher, like the sweet song of the choir, and you light my morning sky with burning love. Burning love. Burning love. Burning love. I'm just a hunk of burning love. Just a hunk of burning love. Just a hunk of burning love. I'm just a hunk of. Little Elvis person, thank you. Thank you very much.
Did you have a song that was kind of like a favorite of your parents?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, my dad loved The Joker by Steve Miller Band as well. Since you mentioned that earlier, it's funny. He loved Boston too. Yeah, they loved a lot of good stuff, a lot of good stuff. But yeah. One song that my best friend's dad really liked, and he always told me this every time my high school band would play together, he said, "You guys really need to learn how to play Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress by the Hollies." And he was like, "There's something about that song that's so great." And he loved it so much, and his band played it, but we finally did. And so, but you guys, you already knew how to play it, so I figured, let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a roll, huh? What do you say?
Saturday night I was downtown working for the FBI, sitting in a den of Batman and them whiskey bottles piling high. Well, the blues feeding cruiser on my left hand for the people that were doing it wrong. Just about to call him my DA man when I heard a woman singing the song. A pair of 45s made me open my eyes. Temperature started to rise. She was a long, cool woman in a black dress, just a fine and a beautiful tall. Just like that, it was a bad mess, 'cause that long, cool woman had it all. Well, I saw her walking toward my table like a tall, walking big black cat. Charlie said, "I hope that you're able, boy, 'cause I'm telling you, she knows where it's at." Well, suddenly we heard
and the people there started to run, knocking over bars and tables when I heard somebody shooting a gun. Well, she wasn't holding my left hand, and he wasn't holding my right. And I told her, don't be scared, 'cause you're gonna be spared. I gotta make a living if I wanna make a living with a long, cool woman in a black dress, just survived and a beautiful talk. Just like that, it was a bad mess, 'cause a long, cool woman had it all. Had it all. Oh, had it all. Had it all. Woo! God, you are so much fun, buddy. Well, I tell you what, let's take it home. We'll call it a night. We've hopefully giving you a blast from the past, and we're looking forward to doing this over the next couple weeks too. We're going to do one next week. We're still working on the date and the time. I've got some schedule stuff I have to work out, but Lori Meyer is with us, and she's going to do some classicals. What's called Sessions Classical, and it's going to be wonderful. But she's also asked for a couple surprises, so be on the lookout. Come join us. It'll either be Friday night or Saturday night, depending on how my schedule works out. But we will meet at 7 o'clock. Then over the next few weeks, I think in 2 weeks we'll get the core band back together, play you some song. I know WD over 40 wants to play for you a little bit. We'll see who else jumps in, but we're looking forward to continuing to offer some music for you. To remind you, we are connected. We are never far from one another's hearts. And in the midst of life and love, we are discerning a new way to be God's people. And part of that means you got to roll.
You got to roll with the
You
changes.
got to roll with some of those changes. We may not like them, but we're going to roll with them.
As soon as you are able, the woman I am willing to make or break the thing, we're on the brink. Oh, my cup is on the table, my love is willing, waiting here for you to take a drink. Oh, so if you're tired of the same old story, oh, turn the pages. I will be here when you are there to roll with the changes. Yeah, oh. I knew it had to happen. Felt the tables turning. Got me through my darkest hour. I heard the thunder clapping. Felt the desert burning. Until you poured on me like a sweet sun shower. So if you're tired of the same old stories, ooh, turn the pages. I will be here when you are there to roll with the changes. Oh, keep on rolling.
thank you guys for listening tonight. That was fun.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week. You'll look forward to seeing Reverend Tim and Luke and a few other folks on Sunday morning, but thank you for joining us.
And then we're going to video chat after
And we are going to have a video.
at 10:30.
Yeah, it's called a video
It's video fellowship.
fellowship hour. That's it. Video fellowship hour. The donuts,
You
but you have to
supply
provide your
donuts.
own.
If you can find a donut store open,
We're going
go
to get
for the
together on
donuts.
Zoom. If you haven't had a chance to get on Zoom yet, one of the things that's great about Zoom is that you go to the Zoom site. They tell you what to do. They help you do it. You just have to push a button. that
And then
says
it's just
yes
like the
every once in a
Brady
while.
Bunch. You get to see everybody.
And then it's like the Brady Bunch. You
It's
get
very
to
cool.
see everybody. It's a lot of fun. So if you'd like to check out Zoom as the days go, we'll show you some more information about how to get a part of it, how to get that on your computer, because we're going to be doing probably some fellowship hours, some Bible studies, some meetings, things like that. So you may want to grab a hold of that Zoom. Thanks for being with us on the live stream. Blessings to all and prayers and health and safety. And, of course, take care of one another in the name of Christ. Amen.
Good night.